Hey there guys, welcome back to T and Tyria episode 6, glad to have you here, and today we're going to be talking about Beta Weekend 3, legendary weapons, and a little bit on the end game, knowing the map Ore. Now we know a little bit about the map Ore, it's exciting stuff, and I want to talk to you guys about it, as well as ask you some tips about legendary weapons. Well, not tips, but I want to ask you a question about them, which you can share in the comments below, and the most creative person will get a high five. But yeah, going straight into the Beta Weekend 3 then, I want to go over this quite quickly because I know a lot of you probably read the blog post for what you're going to be expecting in the Beta Weekend 3. But for those who haven't, I want to quickly go over it and to share what you can get yourself excited about this coming Friday. That's the 20th to the 22nd of July. If you didn't know, you'd be living under a rock. That's when the final Beta Weekend is going to be. And this Beta Weekend includes a brand new map, the Brisbane Windlands. Now the Brisbane Windlands is the level 17 to 20 area. And the Silvari, the human, and the Asura, and it's on the borders of all their starting areas, if you like. So Queensdale, for example, the starting human area, it borders on that area, and also the same for the Silvari and the Asura. So that's very exciting stuff. Of course, it's sort of one of those elements of the game that people are looking for, where, say if you're playing an Asura, for example, you're very used to just seeing Asuras around, you're not really mixing with other races, I suppose. And people have been asking, well, in Guild Wars 2, when do you finally get to sort of mix with other races and help out the humans and help out the Silvari and get that sort of interaction between the two races and see how they react to each other? I mean, the Asura and Silvari, that would be a very interesting question. The Asura being very, very intelligent, very sort of up on their high horse and look down on all the other races, because of course the Asura are the smartest in all of Tyria, and the Silvari, a brand new race to Guild Wars 2, 25 years old or thereabout. Trying to learn new things about the races. How are they going to interact with each other? What sorts of conversations they're going to have? So people have been wondering and quite interested to see how the races sort of intercollide with each other, I suppose. And in Brisbane Wastelands, this is where we're going to see this first happen. So that's very exciting stuff indeedy. So, also, to be excited about is the new minigame, Keg Brawl. Now, minigames are going to be available in many Tyrian cities, and there's going to be many minigames around, including Keg Brawl, which is the first one that we're going to get our hands on. And it's going to be very exciting because I'm interested in the minigames, actually, because when you're bored, when you're sort of fed up of doing dynamic events and you're fed up of doing quests and you don't want to do your personal story, but you still want to play some Guild Wars 2, I'm not interested in PvP, I'm not interested in World v World, I'm quite a boring person after all, and I just want to sit on a mailbox and jump up and down. But even that's getting boring. I don't want to jump up and down on a mailbox and do slash dance anymore. What the hell am I going to do because I've got nothing else to do in the game? Well, my friend, you can play a minigame. And of course, by the sounds of it, you probably wouldn't even want to do that either. But minigames are basically for the people who are bored, sitting around in a city, not much to do, and want to have some fun with their friends or guildies or whoever's around. And you can basically go in and play a minigame. And Keg Brawl is the first one that's going to be introduced in this Beta Weekend 3. So all you have to do is speak to the brewer NPC, and then you will be able to start off in the minigame. Now I'm just going to read what Keg Brawl is all about, because I have no idea myself. So here we go. In Keg Brawl, two teams attempt to score points by tossing a full keg of ale across an icy lake and turning it into an ale collector that belongs to their team. Participants are free to tackle, pummel, kick, and otherwise rough up competing players in order to seize control of the keg. So very exciting stuff, going to be very fun, and I'll definitely recommend you check it out for maybe 10 minutes to 20 minutes or so, or even the whole Beta Weekend, but definitely something to check out. A very, very exciting new thing that's coming out for those PvP players out there is a new PvP map, Legacy of the Fofire. Now, as we are very excited for, as I was talking to Psycho Power Ranger actually in another TNT, and we was very excited for the idea that there's going to be unique elements added into each map. So, for example, Battle of Kylo has the Trebuchet, and Legacy of Fofire is going to have NPC guards and team guild lords. Now these are going to be similar, I'm guessing, to Svani and Chieftain and I've forgotten the name of the map. Forest of something. You can correct me in the comments below and remind me of that PvP map. I've played it too many times to remember the name apparently. But yeah, Svanni and Chieftain, they are basically two boss NPCs that when you kill them you gain a buff and also you get some points. And I'm guessing these NPC guards and guild lords, which are powerful NPCs that are going to be worth a lot of points if you can manage to kill them. So it's quite like Svanni and Chieftain, very hard boss monsters to kill, I suppose, or NPC guards to kill. And if you kill them, you get a lot of points. And I'm not too sure about the buff, but there's also going to be annoying NPC guards running around, causing a nuisance for players in that map. Now, I like the idea of the guild lords, but I'm not too sure about the NPC guards. If they have too many of them, they might just get really annoying and sort of ruin the fun of actually player versus player. Because let's face it, even though the NPC guards, it's still PvE. And if they get away, if there's too many guards around, not the guild lords, but if there's too many little NPC guards around, it might ruin the fun of it for the player versus player feeling and experience that you get whilst in the game, especially in competitive PvP. So I'm not too sure about the NPC guards, but I really like the idea of the guild lords. As long as they only have a couple of NPC guards, maybe defending the guild lord, that's okay, but I hope there's not going to be like 10 NPC guards on each capture point, for example. So, if you're not too interested in PvP, well, strict PvP, but you love the idea of World v World and you're playing a lot of World v World, they're going to be introducing a new objective for solo players or for little groups, and these are called sentries. And as you can imagine from the name, sentries are solitary NPC guards that are located at a capture point and are worth points if you can take them out. But, of course, it's going to be a challenge, so if you're a solo player running around in World v World and you want something to participate in and you want to help your team, well, want to help your server, get those points and get closer to that end goal and to that those buffs and those worldwide sorts of achievements you get, then go off and get those sentries and you can gain points for your teams that way or by yourself. And as a quick reminder, your beta info will be deleted, so the server choice you're on, your characters, pretty much everything apart from your contacts, so this is going to be deleted for this beta and for launch. So in this beta, make sure to add all your friends that you want to add, all your guildies, and then at launch you'll be able to just quickly add them all back up, and your contact information is basically going to be saved anyway, so you'll be okay. And the gem store is open for business, so you can finally buy and purchase gems, and I want to encourage you guys to do so if you've got a little bit of money to spare, because this does help ArenaNet test the game and test their gem store to make it better for us. Of course, there's been a little bit of controversy about the prices, especially for EU, because it's more expensive for EU people out there, but I'm not going to go into too much of that now because I don't know enough detail. But if you want to, go look on Reddit, because I know there's a post up about it there, and you can go and check out all this nonsense that's going on about the prices. But, so yeah, that's what we got to look forward to in the BWE3. It's very exciting stuff. If I've missed anything out, I don't think I have, but I'll quickly double check. Yeah, I think that's about it. So, it's going to be very, very exciting. Of course, we can play this Sylvari and Asura and the new starting areas, and also the glow-in-the-dark Sylvari character creation. I don't know, I never knew about this, and when I was watching GameSpot's playthrough of the Sylvari, they never even showed it off. Even in the IGN one, I don't think they showed it off either. But the Sylvari, when you're customizing your character, of course you're sort of this plant-like creature, and you're, basically you're a plant. And in the character customization, where you change your sort of hairstyle, your body types, and basically how you look, there's a night and day option. And if you click onto the night option, it shows parts of your body that glow in the dark. So, of course, you're a plant, so obviously you're a magical plant as well. So, for example, if you want a certain hairstyle, but it doesn't look that good, click the night option, and you might see that actually you have quite a lot of glow-in-the-dark areas to your hair that you may actually love to bits, and you might want to tweak your face a little bit to make sure you get those marks on your face that also glow in the dark. So that's a very interesting thing, so make sure you do that if you're going to be playing a Sylvari. And if you don't want to play one or an Asura, definitely go into the character creation and check it out anyway, and obviously just delete the character after you've created it, because it's very, very interesting and it's an awesome mechanic to the game. And also, this sort of merges into legendary weapons. Now, before I go on to this, just off the fact that there's glow-in-the-dark sort of skins, if you like, for the Sylvari, it shows that ArenaNet are looking to modernise this game. And what I mean by that, in traditional MMOs, you can often only follow the lines of traditional aspects to the game. So you're not really looking to branch out and revolutionize how MMOs are played. So I know that obviously in other MMOs you have a night and day cycle, but the idea of having sort of glow-in-the-dark weapons and glow-in-the-dark, no, not the glow-in-the-dark weapons, but glow-in-the-dark character, like skins to your character, if you like, is a very modern sort of idea to add into a game, and a night and day cycle and how they're playing around with that is very, very interesting. Now, legendary weapons, if you've seen my previous video, legendary weapons are something that we have to get really excited about. These are going to be weapons that, of course, are legendary. Now, if you haven't really played many MMOs in the past, or if you have, I'm here to basically tell you that we all know legendary weapons are very hard to get. They're basically top tier weapons that you can get in the game until a next maybe expansion comes out, or a next big patch comes out with new content. Basically, the legendary weapons are very, very end game and going to be very hard to get your hands on. But in Guild Wars 2, they want that journey, I suppose, to get that legendary weapon feel extremely rewarding. And you might even if you're that type of player that doesn't really go through all those mediocre tasks in order to get a legendary weapon, you just want to go in, play a couple of dungeons and enjoy the game for what it is, rather than spending your hours and hours upon hours going through all these different little quests and different tasks in order to gain a legendary weapon. In Guild Wars 2, you might change your mind when you hear about some. So in the video with Colin Johansson and Eric Flan talking about the end game, they come across legendary weapons and they tell us about a couple that they're really excited about. Now, there's a great sword that has a special particle effect at night, and there's a great sword that has a special particle effect in the day. So as you can imagine running around having your nighttime legendary greatsword, which by the way is not only going to have a special particle effect at night, but also going to look extremely epic. And I'll come on to this later on, but the way they've done the weapons is quite interesting, and you can definitely see the different tiers of weapon visually. So for example, I've got to level 26 or 27 human warrior, and the only weapons I've really had is just basic steel looking weapons. If you think to Minecraft, I've literally just made a steel sword, and they might look a bit different, but they're basically just steel swords. Now later on in the game, I've seen weapons that just look sort of more magical, more enchanted if you like, and they have a visual appeal to them that are different from this basic sort of crafted with iron and steel look to them. So the look of the weapons are going to be very different, and legendary weapons are going to look that next tier above. You're going to visually be able to see that this guy has got a legendary weapon, even if you don't know what they look like, for example. And of course, if you know what all the legendary weapons look like, you'll be able to see someone with one and be like, wow, that guy is epic. But not only that, but when the sun goes down and the moon comes out, these legendary weapons start glowing and start having nighttime effect, and you see sort of stars within the weapon, you know, and it's just amazing, this greatsword that they were talking about. Now, you can go off and get the legendary day greatsword, you can go off and get the legendary night greatsword, and you can merge them together. So now you have sort of this day and night greatsword that when the moon comes up or when the day is out, your greatsword is doing different effects and it looks absolutely epic. And basically it's a really rewarding weapon that everybody's going to want to get their hands on. They're also talking about a short bow that shoots rainbows. So although this is quite a silly legendary weapon, I'm quite glad they added it in, because sometimes a game can take itself too seriously and it takes away sort of the humour and the enjoyment out of playing a game. So having a short bow that shoots rainbows, I think visually everybody's going to know that you're an absolute badass who is going to put a rainbow in your face. Now I'm not too sure about PvP. Structured PvP, because obviously we know it's all sort of separate and you have different gear and different weapons for Structured PvP and for PvE. So I'm hoping that in Structured PvP, the top tier weapons that you can possibly get in there are going to be just as epic and just as visually stunning as they are in a PvE. But the one that I'm most looking forward to is they sort of in between talking about the rainbow shortbow and the day and night great sword. They talked a little bit about a great hammer, I think it was. A great hammer that basically looks like liquid metal, and it's got like sort of a bit in between the two outer edges of the hammer that sort of looks like it's dripping with liquid metal, and this has an effect on your armor that you're wearing. So you will leave behind sort of liquid metal footprints, and I'm guessing your armor will look like it's leaking with liquid metal, and you basically look like a badass Terminator. So very visual, and what I like about them is how they have an effect on your character. So for example, the liquid metal one is why I'm excited about it the most, is just because it's a weapon, it also has an effect on how your character comes out, and it might have an effect on your armor, and it has basically more of an effect on your actual character other than just having an effect on your weapon. So I'm very excited for this, and it's going to be epic. And one of my goals is definitely to get one of these legendary weapons. It's going to take a long time. I know it's going to be very, very brutal of a journey to get one, but I am so excited for them that I just want one, and I'm sure a lot of you guys do too. But with all this said, we know that there's going to be a day and night greatsword, there's going to be a short bow that shoots rainbows, there's going to be a great hammer that sort of has an effect on your armor and you look like you're Terminated, dropping liquid metal everywhere. But what would your legendary weapon idea be? I want you guys to leave in the comments what, if you was to make a legendary weapon, and if you was a designer, a game designer at ArenaNet, and they said to you, go out there, choose any weapon you like, any tier of weapon, what would it be? Now, what you be very, very creative and inventive of this. If I did have a beta key to give away, this is sort of what the competition I would do. You know, whoever comes up with the most creative idea will, get a beta key. But what I'll do instead, in my next Tyria, I'll take a snippet of the best idea and I'll put it up in the video for everybody to see. So your idea will get broadcasted in the next Tyria, and it'll be awesome. So come up with your own legendary weapon. It can be any range of the weapons that there are. Maybe daggers will be very interesting. What can you possibly do with daggers to make it legendary? Or, whatever weapon it is, come up with your own idea and share it in the comments. And also it's a reward for getting this far into Tyria, of course. So, with all that said, I want to go on to a little bit to do with ore. Now, ore is a zone in the end game. I'm assuming it's going to be in the Char sort of area. Now, if you're a lore guy, definitely let people know in the comments on this one, because I'm not too sure, but I'm assuming that ore is going to be a Char zone, or a Char, influence zone if you like. And it's going to be late game, so it's going to be a sort of level 80, I'm guessing level 70 to 80 zone, in which obviously late game, very, very late game players. Now, we're used to zones with renowned hearts, waypoints, points of interest, and newly added vistas into the game, where you basically go over, help the people that are in need of help, helping them with their hearts, getting a little bit calmer. We used to this same sort of this same sort of idea in each zone that we go into, that we're going to go in, complete the zone, complete all the hearts, complete all the waypoints. But in ore, they've changed it up a bit. They're saying, we want an interesting endgame for level 80s to participate in. So in ore, it's only going to be dynamic events. So dynamic events scale from what the players do. So a couple of Tyrias ago, I was talking about how I'm a little bit worried that dynamic events don't have enough of effect on the world. And what I meant by this is dynamic events don't last long enough. I would do a dynamic event and it will have about 3-4 stages and then it's over. But these 3-4 stages last like 20 minutes or something, and it seems really, really quick, and it comes back to that feel that you're just doing quest after quest after quest, and you're not doing dynamic event. You're not doing an exciting, world-changing dynamic event. You're just doing another quest. You're just helping out this farmer, push back a few centaurs, putting out some fires, and then maybe growing some wheat again. That's just a normal quest, and it only lasts, 15 minutes maybe at the longest. And this was a concern I had with the dynamic events, that although they're really exciting now, a year down the line, dynamic events will just get really tedious and boring again, like quests do. Because if you think about it, when MMOs came out first, when, World of Warcraft first came out, when, EVE Online or something first came out, even the original Guild Wars first came out, quests were also ridiculously exciting. Even just going out and killing 10 boars, the fact that you can kill 10 boars, turn it in, get a reward, get some experience, and get some lore, it was a really exciting aspect to the game. But now, 10 years down the line, it's just really boring, really samey, and it gets a little bit old. Now, the same could happen with dynamic events for everybody. Now, if they're not in depth enough, I feel that this trap could be seen a lot earlier than a few years down the line, and it could be seen a few months down the line, and people could be getting a little bit bored of the dynamic events, how we're used to them at the moment, a few months down the line. However, with this news of Ore, I am ridiculously excited for it, because it's a whole zone. Now, these zones in Guild Wars 2 are very big. They're very big maps, and so you can imagine a whole zone full of just dynamic event content. So you open up this zone, you go into there, you hit the map button, you look for scouts, and there's none around. It's literally just a map, a whole zone for you to go and explore. Now, the way they've set this up is there's huge dynamic events, there's huge meta events and chains that just scale off, and at the end of it there's these big sort of boss battles, if you like. So instead of having your general raid content, basically what you do is you go into Ore or other zones like it, and you just see where the progression of the dynamic events are, you see where the players are, and this is going to be very challenging content as well. A lot of dynamic events we've been seeing, and what I was concerned about as well with dynamic events, is that it's not really challenging content. And of course we're only been experiencing the lower level area stuff, which isn't supposed to be challenging, but I was quite worried the fact that how dynamic events are. I mean, it's not sort of controlled 10-man, 25-man raid groups. Dynamic events are literally, you can have 50 people that just overwhelm a dynamic event and make it really easy. But in Ore, they're saying it's going to be very, very challenging for the players, and of course, because it's endgame content, it may even take a little while to gear up everybody's characters in order to complete the content. So this is really exciting stuff. Like, imagine if one of the raids that you're used to in WoW or in Aeon or in any other game, imagine one of the big raid contents, or even in Rift for example. Imagine going into a raid and then, doing the trash, doing the bosses after boss after boss, and finally coming down to the big boss and you're all cheering or dancing. Imagine that experience, but in the open world. Now, this is something that MMOs have been trying to achieve for quite a while, with open world bosses, with public quests. Like, for example, in Rift, where you got rifts in Warhammer Online, where you have your public quests. They're trying to achieve this in open world environment for a very long time, and this is the feeling that you get, a sense of achievement as a community and as a server when you find and defeat for example, an Elder Dragon, or you find and defeat that dragon at the end of all these quest chains. But you can go into this area, and for example, when you enter it, they could be halfway through the raid, so you just join on the back of it and you're doing all these meta events and these dynamic events that are just scaling off. Maybe you're attacking a keep at one point with all these undead zombie people in there, but whatever it is, you can just participate on the fly. And the fact that they've done a whole zone for dynamic events is ridiculously exciting, and I'm really looking forward to getting into Ore. And if you want it better explained, if you don't really know the direction I'm going with this, just take a look at my previous video with Eric Flan and Contra Hansen talking about it, because obviously they haven't really released much details on it, but you can see the excitement in their face, and you can see that it is truly going to be challenging, and it's truly going to be what we would expect to be end-game content. Because of course Guild Wars 2 don't want an end-game. They don't want you to have to grind your way to level 80 to then experience the game. They want their whole game to be end-game. So they're not going to have things like raids. They're not going to have what we would know now as end-game content, which is what I was a little bit concerned about. But now, knowing the direction they're going to take dynamic events with, and the direction they're going to take their sort of boss fights with, I'm really excited for it. I look at it as basically open world raid content, and if you're not excited about that, I don't know what can get you excited about that, especially if you're a PvE player. So that's it for today's Tyria and Tyria, guys. I'd like to thank you all for listening. Remember to put in your comments your legendary weapon ideas, and definitely, get creative with that, because I'm really excited to see what you guys have. I can't really think of one. I tried to think of one on the spot. I just thought about this. Maybe I could try and come up with one. But I think if I was to come up with one, I would go for, and I was talking about this with one of my guildmates actually the other day, a two-handed axe. Now, a lot of you are probably raising your eyebrows right now, because at the moment I haven't seen any two-handed axe. We've got two-handed greatswords, we've got two-handed warhammers, but imagine if you could just get a legendary weapon, or even the endgame weapons, that are just two-handed axes. So you automatically see that it's a brand new style of weapon with, by the way, a brand new weapon selection, no, skill selection in your skill bar, because obviously two-handed axe is going to be different from everything else. So you could get an endgame weapon from maybe an endgame boss fight or a legendary weapon that's a two-handed axe with a brand new set of skills that maybe your warrior, your guardian, or even maybe your thief that can be a two-handed, one-handed axe. You know, well, two double-edged one-handed axe, for example. You know, that could be an interesting idea. And of course, I don't know, maybe it can be a fire axe. Honestly, I'm not creative enough to come up with a legendary weapon on the spot. Maybe I'll put one in the comments after I've had a little bit more thought, and I could be that first person to comment, yay! But otherwise, guys, I will see you guys next time. Thanks for listening. I have been Philetic. Make sure you follow me on Twitter, because my Twitter followers aren't doing me justice. I was going to basically give an example from my Twitter followers on today's Tea and Tyria to give you a sort of an example of what to do, but no one really came up with the idea for a legendary weapon. Someone said that they just want a sort of unique, well graphically designed weapon, but I mean, come on, be a bit more inventive, and definitely leave your inventive ideas in the comments below. So guys, I will see you next time. Thank you for listening. Make sure you subscribe for more, and yeah, I'm looking forward to playing with you in the BWE3.